what we're building is more based on quality products and quality areas with quality amenities, rather than just trying to create the highest cash flow possible.
Welcome back to the CashFlow podcast, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. I'm your host, Jason Yoss. Today, my special guest, Brian Coons. Brian, good to see you.
Senor, dude, thanks for having me on again.
I love it. But before you and I get started, I just want to take a second to thank our sponsors, Rainforest Heating, Plumbing, and Air. They have been instrumental to helping our podcast. They service all of Maricopa County and the Phoenix Valley. And Daniels Plumbing, servicing San Diego, Orange County, the Inland Empire, and LA County. Without them, we couldn't have this show. So thank you guys. Now, Brian, good to see you, brother.
Dude, man, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, it's always good to have you come on. It's not just the fact that we're both Marines, we're both in this industry, but as I told you before, man, I love to see whatever project you got going on, and development is your game, and it's been good.
Yeah, it's been exciting. I remember us meeting here, pre-beard Brian, and you got me on the podcast the first time right at the start of the beard. So it's been interesting. You've seen multiple phases.
Let's catch up, talk about what you're doing right now, founder of Builder Nation and the HK Development Group. Builder Nation, what's that focused on?
Yeah, so obviously, if anyone, hasn't heard of me before this, I got into ADU development right at the start of this crazy thing back in 2020. And from there, got out of the military, started working at a design and architecture firm that had over 500 ADU projects, most of them being in Southern California and the main portion being in San Diego, which was housing of the bonus ADU program, which is basically the point where there was no rules. And you could pretty much build whatever you wanted to, and put us in a little incubator of seeing the things to do, the things not to do with development, and got a really cool, just a ton of reps in such a short period of time. I was doing my own developments throughout all of that, getting my own battle scars throughout my own projects at the same time, and just saw a lot of reps in a very short period. So from there, about 10 months ago, ended up quitting there. Now I own a development and design build company to help people build ADUs the right way in San Diego.
That's HK Development.
That is HK Development, and the Builder Nation is the education side. So if somebody wants to do it themselves, they want to get their hands dirty, they want to spend the time doing it and learn the trade. That's where I take the reps that I got and try and help them avoid the mistakes on their own.
All that experience into one. And you're right, even all that experience, when you lay it out for someone who is trying to develop or do ADUs, they still may be like, hey, it's not for me. I need a professional to do it for me. Also the host of the Builder Nation podcast.
Also the host, yes, that is new.
What interesting things are we seeing over there?
Yeah, so that's been a fun journey so far, getting the podcast up and running. So there's this portion of what I'm doing, behind the scenes of the personal brand. So I am learning, and I'm a huge proponent that over the next 5 to 10 years, a large market share in any industry is going to go towards founder-led brands. Yeah. And so with that, you have to have a personal brand. You have to be getting your face out there and just trying to give value, give knowledge. And by doing that, people are going to see you. They're going to see your face. You're going to build the trust with them of that you're actually doing it. They can follow along the journey.
Yep. And
at some point, some of those people are going to say, at least for my industry, the call to action is, hey, I want to do ADU development. Clearly you're the guy that kind of knows what he's doing. Can you help me out? So the Builder Nation podcast is just another way that I can get in front of people, honestly, that I probably shouldn't even be in front of. There's no reason I should be in the same room as people. I just had Thatch Nguyen at the event last week, amazing. And so I'm you asked me a year ago, if I thought that was reality, I'd be like, hell no. And so it's been cool to kind of talk to people that are further along than I am in different sectors of the industry doing other things. And the whole point of the podcast is I want to learn from people that are in shape, that are successful in life, family, traveling, all these things, and how they're doing that at such a high level and operating like the 1% in all facets of their life, not just making money. Making money is cool, but it's how do you stay in shape, have a good family life, not act miserable, have good friends and culture and stuff like that. And so being able to just ask every single one of those people, on my own platform, just kind of the things that I want to know has been really, really fun.
There's so many people who have been successful with a whole dumpster fire going on behind them, and that's just not the way I want to operate. So it's great to hear from people who actually have it together, kind of well-rounded. First of all, you're a pro. Okay, you do have those reps. So looking at San Diego's market specifically, what's new in our development world that's got you excited?
That's a great question. So there's a couple things. So there's 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that are all things that I'm leveraging in my own portfolio. So, if we took it back 3, 4, 5 years ago, the question was always how many units can I put on it?
Right.
And because it was, unlimited, right? Up to, however much floor area you were allowed to build. So everyone just asked, how many units can I put on this property? And over time, we started to realize that, people might actually care about having somebody not looking into their window in their bedroom. People might care about having more than just a 3-foot gap to bring a couch into their bedroom or into their living room. And so we started to see some of these things and shifting the question from what can I build to what should I build.
Right.
And so with that, they rolled back the bonus ADU program a little bit in the city of San Diego. Statewide, they added a law called AB 1154 that's now allowed for junior accessory dwelling units, which up to this point have always required owner occupancy. So, it works. You can get an extra unit where you kind of convert part of the house, but you've had to live there. It's always required owner occupancy. So any point, if you moved, you either have to sell it to somebody who owns or who lives there, or you just aren't allowed to, you have to convert it back.
When you say junior ADU, is that like the garage conversion? Was that a junior ADU?
It can be. So the nuance
example?
there, back in the day, it was basically like, somebody had a little master suite or in-suite, and you could kind of close off the door and give it its own little kitchenette, and now it's like its own kind of little rental unit.
Right.
That was where it started. Then they came out with these, JADU and ADU regulations, but it was always just called this like little JADU conversion of part of the house. And then ADU has kind of, expanded it to be able to also be a conversion of part of the house or part of the garage. But you could also do detached ADUs, and it started to get a little more expansive. And so they updated all these ADU regulations, but the JADU never really like caught up.
Right.
It's still a thing, and it's still a way to get more density. But there was this owner occupancy requirement where AB 1154, what it did was it now allows you to convert part of the house or part of a garage, as long as it's attached, into a JADU, but it doesn't require owner occupancy anymore.
Nice.
So what that's done is it's allowed us to take state code, which says you're allowed a conversion ADU with an existing habitable or non-habitable space. Right. So you get one ADU from part of the house or a garage. That garage can be attached or detached, doesn't matter, for the ADU. So you can now convert a garage. You can also do a detached ADU on top of that, up to 800 square feet, pretty much anywhere in state. So that gets you ADU conversion, detached ADU, and now the JADU you can convert from part of the oversized house, or if you happen to have 2 garages. I'm looking at a property right now that literally has an attached garage and a detached garage.
Right.
So the hack there, and this is like pretty much my main strategy right now, is finding an oversized single family home that has a detached garage, because you can take part of the size of the house, you can convert part of the house to the JADU, convert the garage in the back to the ADU, and then also do a detached ADU up to 800 square feet.
Taking one from every specific. So you went from the right property with the right layout, took you from one single family to a 4-unit
single family home. Yeah, single family home zoning is dead, and now every property can be a 4-unit property if it's set up the right way at a bare minimum.
It's just that's just crazy. What about? What are we doing on financing side? I keep hearing that financing has changed. Rates are always in the picture. It's always in the news. But from a development, and especially on the ADU sites, are we getting more cash, or are we getting more financing options?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Fannie Mae has just come out with some new regulations. They're still very new and still getting adopted countrywide. But the intention is that if you have a single family, you can finance up to 3 ADUs. If you have a duplex, 2, triplex, 1, etc. So they're getting a little bit more savvy, and that's kind of what I feel like I've said it before on some other podcasts and stuff, but like it's been something. It just takes a while to catch up, but that's why I've been actually adjusting my strategy as much as I can and as often as I can to stay under 5 units, so 4 and below,
right? Because
the financing, whether it be this new updated, more conventional financing for multiple ADUs, or we've just been using DSCR loans. That's the other one, right?
1
so
to 4 units,
rents.
basically,
yeah.
right?
But the 1 to 4 unit DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio space, is so much more aggressive with how much they'll give you. So if you're looking at a 1.25 or 1.2 DSCR on anything 5 plus, we've gotten one that's been a 1.0 interest only
Really?
on a 4 unit that we have over in Allied Gardens. And so, it doesn't cash flow great, but we're sitting on $700,000 in equity on it.
Right. And the old rules, they are shining through here because commercial product was, okay, 5 units or more. So all those old mortgage rules were taking effect up there, but 1 to 4 units, you're getting a lot of play. You're getting aggressive rates and aggressive loan products like you talked about. Okay, what's on the flip side though? What's worrying you, especially at the local level? I know I saw you all over social media and all my other developer friends down at those San Diego City Council meetings, like with a bunch of people that had "Not in My Backyard" t-shirts on. What's worrying you about what's going on here in San Diego from an ordinance standpoint?
Oh yeah. So it's funny. The big meeting that was there, I made a grave mistake of sitting literally directly behind the speaker anytime that somebody came up. So I was on the television the entire 8-hour day.
That guy, Brian Coons, yeah, he's the one, yeah.
Absolutely. So I could not have a single facial expression. I actually had my buddy text me. He's like, bro, it's actually impressive how little facial expressions you're having right now.
Packed and bearing, it's a Marine thing.
Exactly. So that was to give, everyone kind of the context and the story. Basically, the bonus ADU program allowed for unlimited ADUs within a ratio calculation or a calculation of, if it's a 10,000 square foot lot and it's a 0.5 floor area ratio as a max, you could build 5,000 square feet of building.
Right.
But up to that point, there was a density, whereas, hey, you're only allowed to build this many units per lot. This new change in the bonus ADU program said, hey, you're allowed to build as many as you want as long as you stay under that 5,000.
Crazy.
So you could have 5,000 square feet and you could put it into 10 500 unit structures. You could put it into 5,000 unit structures, or you could do 200 unit structures and make 25 of those bad boys. So what that did was it kind of, the way they did it, it accidentally incentivized a lot of very small micro-ish units.
Sure.
And on these big parcels out toward Encanto and some of these other areas, it induced the wrong desire out of developers, I think, in my opinion, it fell a little bit out of line of what I believe is a spirit and intent, how we talk about spirit and intent.
What the goals were of the program.
Yeah, and so what they did is they just realized that some of these things, it didn't follow what their intention was. So they kind of adjusted some of these things in terms of, how much you're allowed to build. These really big lots, they kind of, rolled it back on them. They put a limit on how many units you could put now. It's not just unlimited anywhere.
Right.
Especially in these single family zones.
Yep.
So now what it's done is kind of incentivize a little bit better or a little bit more intention behind the units you're building, not just max cash flow, but really trying to maximize the units and developability. So for me, what we kind of, over the past, probably 2 or 3 years now, we've been realizing that some of these nicer products actually tend to be a little bit cheaper to build because you're not just shoving in as, a $6 million project. It's, they're more manageable. They're $1 million, $2 million, maybe a little bit more than that to get it to the finish line. So it's much easier to finance. They're a little bit quicker, things like that. So I've actually been, with my team, been rolling back in a little bit more intentionally small projects because they're faster, cheaper, all these things that we're talking about. So in my opinion, I think that most of the changes, 95% of the time, have actually not really adjusted or changed too much for people.
Okay.
There's a couple things where fees are a little bit more expensive on certain projects now, which is not, it's not fun, but it's not a deal breaker. But yeah, it's just kind of put the guardrails on some of these outlier projects, I would say.
I've definitely heard from you and from others that saying this is one time where the city actually didn't overstep when they got involved in bringing it back. And I'd love to see better quality ADU units being built. Infill product is needed for sure. But you're right, micro units, I don't see it from a property management perspective. I don't see it filling the bill like a nice, more quality unit that's being put together. And in terms of that, you touched on a little bit, but about how your philosophy has changed on what you're building. Are you worried at any point that with the state of California and the city and county getting tougher on their rental laws, that it's going to affect what you're building or what your perspective is for, when you turn around to sell these units?
That's a good question. I think that overall my strategy, I think, has matured to the point where what we're building is more based on quality products and quality areas with quality amenities rather than just trying to create the highest cash flow possible.
Yeah.
And so what it's done is it's led me to have to find, investors that understand that. It's, person who's investing on flips, person who's investing on these big multifamily projects, who's seeing these outlandish returns and IRRs that number one is like kind of illegal to get, it's kind of illegal depending on your structure to actually, produce IRRs for them.
Yep.
But secondarily, you're you're expecting the best case scenario. You're not giving them a sensitivity analysis saying, hey, here's like, if things take a little bit longer,
could
things
happen,
don't rent
right?
out as well, et cetera. Here's the reality of here's how much you can make. It's everyone kind of is, a lot of people are floating this best case scenario. So we've had to, find the right capital for it, and there just aren't as many deals that fit this bill. So it's something that we've just, we've adjusted and we've accepted that, and it's at the expense of just scaling to scale, which I actually appreciate, and I don't think that that's my goal at this point. But we've been able to, find the right investors for these types of projects. And we are able to execute it at a super high level. And so what's interesting in kind of our model now is, if it doesn't make sense to buy as many, which it kind of doesn't right now with where acquisition costs are at and things, we still have bandwidth and we still have operational excellence that we can, we have available. So that's why we started this design build company as well, is we've been able to say, hey, look, we're developers by trade. We understand the economics of these. We know how to underwrite, determine scope, execute well, build well. So if you have a project, and it's like we can plug in and help you out, avoid the risks, et cetera, and execute at a high level. So it's been fun.
I want to segue that because you said earlier, I've been through the wars. I have a lot of experience. You have a ton of deals under your belt. I want to fast forward to what that's provided, what it means to actually gain experience and know how to do it right. We talked about before when you came on last time about a deal you were starting. Tell me how that's ending out now.
Oh man,
Walk me through that deal again, just to remind the listeners.
Yeah, so I think that one was I think that was the one we were turning into 6 units.
Right.
So we bought a duplex, just reading all the code, knowing what we could do, and the way we could execute it. We wanted to convert it into 6 units, and they were going to be very small units. And we said, oh, it's going to cash flow. It's going to be great. Had a code violation on it from the get-go, and we said, we know how to handle it. It's fine. Long story short on that, we had 2 other projects going at the same time. The lender, we were having some issues with getting the funds because we did unpermitted work at the time. We thought it would be okay with them, and they literally said it would be okay, but then we got to the point where we did the work and we were saying, hey, like, let's get this draw for $100,000 so we can roll it into the next project. And they said, hold up. And so kind of basically spent about a year really just basically managing money and trying to figure out how we're going to get this money to pay this and burning through capital rather than just managing really good projects and building really good products. So that one, luckily, we ended up selling that one. We made money on it, which is great. Right. Crazy that we did that. But we got out of that one.
You're
got
like,
out
all
of
that you all
I'm
glad we got out of that.
No,
right?
Yeah, and that was my only concern. Is like, hey, as long as we like get out of this and we don't lose money, like I consider that a win. And now we realize that it sounded really cool to flex our ego and say, yeah, we're building 40 units across these 3 projects, and realize that like that doesn't really matter. No one gives a shit. It does, like, it sounds cool, but then when you realize like it's better to. What I've realized is it's better to have less projects with more equity and build and focus on quality projects rather than just at the expense or at the, for your ego.
Ego drives everything usually in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So
and so based on that, when you've got that, you use that to get your Claremont deal.
So that one's a little bit separate, but I think to hopefully answer the question, like to give the example, it wasn't that project. That one was, kind of quick and we got out of it. We had a project that I bought in July of 2022.
Right.
We did not get permits until about 3 months ago. So that was over 36 months between acquisition and permit.
Wow.
Because just basically all the things that you can do wrong. We built the wrong project. We didn't realize what we needed to get done before the project started. We picked the team that didn't move as quickly as we anticipated. They didn't have the experience that we needed for them to execute the project well.
Right.
There were things on our end that we didn't do. I took too long to pay some invoices. I didn't answer questions in a timely manner. So just like everything that could go wrong and expand a project timeline happened on this project.
That's a huge expansion, right? You're normally expecting, 12 months for permitting, maybe less than 36.
Yeah,
is
that's the
crazy.
budget that I think a lot of people got, especially in the beginning. And, we realized that there's just so many factors that go into that.
Yeah.
Where I think, so for example, that took 36 months to get through permits. We bought another one in September of 2024.
Okay.
And we are going to be done with construction this month. So it's been about a 15-month time horizon from start to finish on this one, not just for the permit.
And what was that product? And
so
just
that
real
one,
quick
yeah,
about
so
that.
single family home. We converted the garage and built 4 additional units in the backyard, so it'll be 6 when it's done. And that was just a really cool. So the 36-month permit project wasn't the only one. There were the ones that we talked about, a couple other ones going through the same process that took a while. But all those learning lessons, this 6 unit was kind of like the homage to like, okay, cool. Now that I've built the checklist, now that I have like the way I execute, the types of builds that we do, all these things, like how much faster, like it wasn't easy by any means. Development is still like an issue and whatever. But the level of risk reduction is unparalleled for the experience. So when I talk to a lot of people where they say, oh, my contractor said I could build it for X price, and I'm like, okay, well, he's not including this. He's not including this. He's not including this. He doesn't even know if that's feasible.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how much it's, how you're going to finance. He has asked none of those questions.
Just threw you a number.
Yeah, he just threw you a number to try and get the bid at the lowest cost, and he's going to change order you to death. And then same with the other way. The architect is, I'll draw it for this, but oh, by the way, you need right of way. Oh, by the way, you need structural engineering, Title 24, soil study. And now, you get by. He's like, oh, you get submitted to the city, and then they say, oh, you need a boundary survey, and then they draw that boundary survey. And then they say, oh, we actually have to move the building 3 feet because it's in the property line. So now every single one of those people has to redesign. And now you're taking 3, 6, 9 extra months plus. So it's been, all those things, that's kind of like what now I've taken and tried to condense into like a clear business model to help people either like execute, work with a team that executes as a developer, or to help kind of like the homeowner, like, person who wants to do development, but isn't necessarily the one who wants to go through the battle scars themselves, because it can be very time intensive and costly for sure.
That is the takeaway. If you don't get anything else out of the podcast with Brian and I, is like, hey, look how somebody who's done tons of projects, not just on their own, but working for a company that specializes and now running your own. A disaster could be 36 months, tons of money down the drain, having to do things over and over again, versus like an experience, like the end point of like, once you have that skill and experience, being able to get it done in a timely manner, on budget, and then you're going to produce money on the way out. So, not tons of time left, but I do want to wrap up with a couple questions. Number one, today's market. What are the 2 biggest challenges you're facing?
So number one is just finding quality deals. I think that it's something where the acquisition price that people want, they know in Southern California their property is valuable. It's hard to make that pencil with where build costs are at, hold costs, et cetera. So that's definitely a challenge where I'm finding that it's more sometimes fun to work with the person that already owns the property, because they own it, and now it's just like, hey, how do we maximize this thing?
Right. Is it when people hear like investor or builder, do they automatically then try to shoot the number through the roof as well? Like, do they not know that everybody has to make money when you're approaching them about an acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you're playing a game being in the single family space there is multiple exit strategies. So sometimes we're going up against the flipper who can just get a quick turn and burn, put in $50K and forget about it.
Sure.
So you're kind of playing against some different games at the same time.
Makes
when
sense.
if you're just buying land, it's like there's only one exit strategy, but then there's also inherent risk and time associated with that. And so it's something that we're dealing with, and we're finding different ways to get in front of the right people with these deals. And try and add value, whether it be to build it, or somebody's looking at selling us, but they're not really in a hurry. It's like, hey, like let's come in and let's actually figure out how we just maximize, leverage your equity, build it for you, and then you can sell it at double the amount, right? And you add $2, $3, $4, $500,000 of equity on top before you sell in a year.
Do you see with all this going on, how do you balance that with building out your own company?
It's a balance. I think it's a teeter totter. So obviously right now it's we have an offer on something right now that I think we're probably going to end up locking up. But at the same time, we only have so many projects that make sense because it's easy to buy deals.
Yeah.
It's easy to fudge a number and say, oh yeah, it's going to be it's going to sell for this, and it's going to cost us this, and then you kind of just continue to kick the can down the road. But I don't want to do that, and I'd rather say no to deals. I'd rather have less deals and better deals,
Yeah.
and focus on now the other side is servicing for other people. So that's where this teeter totter is. Like the more acquisitions we do, obviously the less bandwidth we'd have. Right now it's kind of it just depends. So right now we have some bandwidth. We're taking on some design build projects for people, and it's been fun.
Nice.
So.
God, that's great to be able. I'd love to see you doing both sides, because I think people are going to walk away happy, not having to like, oh, I could do this. Yeah, right, you can.
Yep.
Exactly. Final question. Okay. If we were stepping back and I'm having you on 12 months from now, where do you see yourself and the business when you're back on talking to me again?
Yeah. So my goal is to be the number one development company in San Diego. Not the biggest, not the most units, the best. So that's inclusive of the design build company and our own investments. I want people, when they think of ADUs, they think of small urban infill in San Diego. I am the person that they call, because I want to execute at the highest level possible, be the person that just adds value and makes people realize that, like, oh shit, I want to work with this dude. So that's my goal.
That's amazing. Do you think that 12 months is enough time to build that reputation, or do you think that this is just the goal, lifelong goal of the business in general?
It's a really good question.
And that's aggressive. I love it. I'm 100% behind you too. I know you personally. I think the world of you and your skill set. But 12 months. Are we gonna be there, or are we gonna be halfway there? Where are we gonna be in 12 months?
I think that for me, it's something, obviously it's always going to be self-proclaimed. We're not going to get it, voted on by anyone, but no,
the survey's not going to go out.
My goal is whoever I work with, that is from day one in their eyes.
That's how they feel. I love it. I love it. As we wrap up, and I appreciate your feedback. As we wrap up here, I just want to get your kind of feedback on the industry as a whole. I mean, it's only been around for a short time. What's your overall take of the ADU industry as a whole? Is it going to be here to stay? I mean, it's relatively new. And what changes do you expect to see in the future?
So I'll give you some statistics and let you decide.
Cool.
There are 14 million roughly housing units in California. There are about 7.5 million of those that are single family homes. There are about 3.5 million homes short, based on the different statistics that you can find.
Wow.
Can you guess how many ADUs have been built so far?
100,000?
130,000.
Ah, that's crazy. The 3.5 million. There's only like 2.9 or whatever million to go.
Yep. So based on that, I would say most people would probably say that there's an opportunity over the next decade for sure.
I'd love it. Brian Coons, thank you so much. Love having you here. For everybody else, thank you for tuning in to the CashFlow Podcast, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. We'll see you next week.